Welcome to another episode of Drinking with Dana. If I can fix the camera angle there. Hi, how are you doing? It seems like it's been a month since I did one of these, but I guess it has been. First of all, thank you, Winter Vespers, for renewing your subscription. Thank you. 5 months. Wow, it's been a while. Although I guess we're coming up on a year of doing these shows. So, hi, Tanya Marie. Hi, Ska. Hi, Morning Wind. Hi, everyone. It's so good to have you here. Sorry I missed last time, but it was, I think folks can understand. I just really wasn't up to it that time. A few things. First of all, this week is going to be a bit of a tying up loose threads episode, and I hope I'll explain as I go along, but there's some things that I've been wanting to do and revisit and kind of tidy up some things. And then, let's see. Tanya was saying how she was rocking out to the surf guitar earlier. That band is called the Delstroyers, and if you're in the Seattle area, they're going to be playing at Surf by Surf West in, I believe it's July 21st at Daryl's Tavern. Very, very good live show. A bunch of great bands. They're going to be playing on, like I say, Friday the 21st. And then the second day, there's a bunch more bands that go all day Saturday. So I plan on being there. If you are at all a fan of that band, you should definitely check it out. Let's see. Oh, I didn't say hi to Lori. Yes, hi, Lori. I said hi to her earlier. She got a hug and a kiss before I went on air. Well, actually not a kiss because she hates having lipstick on her face. So, anyway, let's see. One thing that I'll bring up at the end is that last weekend I got to actually do a Let's Play over on the Transverse. So you can check it out on their YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@thetransverse. And just look for All on the Table side quests. They have a playlist. It's the most recent one. We got to play Adventure. I got to play a very creepy witch in it. It was a lot of fun. The Transverse is where I got my start streaming, and I owe them a lot. And also, I just had a really good time playing. So if you like tabletop role playing games, Let's Plays, definitely check it out. Winter Vesper says, "If I didn't already know you haven't been to Boston, your Wicked top would make me think otherwise." No, this is a Disneyland top. I actually acquired this from Lori. And if you look down far enough, there's a little patch of the Wicked Queen on it. I think it was originally supposed to be for pajamas or sleepwear or something, but I am not bound by these petty rules of fashion. So, on that note, Ogre Marco says Mickey and he are here, which is good because we're going to start off with a suggestion by our very own Ogre to make Guinness Punch. And I mentioned that this is for tying up loose ends. So a while back, I did a show of things I hadn't tried before, audience suggestions, stuff like that. And this is one, the very first suggestion I got was from Ogre, suggesting Guinness Punch, which is a classic drink in the Caribbean, which you wouldn't think, Guinness and all that, but apparently there were a lot of Irish immigrant labor that worked in Jamaica and throughout the Caribbean, and so Guinness, knowing that there were Irish people there, shipped over a bunch of Guinness. And it turns out that, as has been said before, drinking Guinness is like drinking a loaf of bread, and it turns out it actually does have a lot of nutrients in it that folks need. So this is a cocktail that was made up, to fit that. Now, the reason I didn't do it before is because one of the ingredients in it is something called supplogin, which also they say it's also called Nutrigen, or there are other recipes called for Nutrigen. In researching this, it turns out every person in the Caribbean makes it slightly differently. This is one recipe I found. But Supplegen or Nutrigen and all that, they're meal replacement or meal supplement products. And I didn't have that because they aren't found outside of Jamaica. But what I did have was Ensure, because my dad, when he had cancer, drank a lot of these because he couldn't get himself to eat, but he could at least get himself to drink these. And they're, nutrient shakes and not entirely meal replacement, or at least meal supplement and all that. So I figured I would grab one of these, and when he was able to drink alcohol again, I would make this with him, and we could enjoy that together. But unfortunately, he never really got to the place where he was healthy enough to have. Basically, his meds would not allow him to have alcohol until he was on morphine, and combining morphine and alcohol is not a good idea. So, in his honor, and in Ogre's honor, and all that, I was going to make it today to sort of tie up that loose end. So yeah, and the Ensure, the Supplegen, Nutrigen, whatever you want to call it, is another reason why this drink is very good for folks working out in the hot sun all day. You want, it's not very high in alcohol, but it replaces a lot of that stuff that you burn off. So, I actually haven't switched to the ingredient or the recipe there. So, let's start off. 1 cup vanilla Supplegen, which, as it turns out, is exactly one of these shakes here. 8 ounces, which is 1 cup. If I've done my math right. So, apparently you have to shake these up, or at least Dad always did. So, and I'm going to make this in the blender. Apparently you can just make it with a whisk or whatever you like. I'm going to make it in the blender because it's easier. And not the most appetizing, but it's there. All right. And then I'm going to need a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg grated. I've got a nutmeg already started here. Of course, it always falls right down to the bottom. I'm going to use freshly grated nutmeg because it's better, in my opinion. You want it to be nice and fresh. Now, I'm going to just approximate a 1/4 of a teaspoon here. And I'm using just the nut here. Why don't I just start a new one here? It'll go a lot faster. We tend to think of nutmeg as a very Christmassy spice, but it is a Caribbean spice, and it's used in a lot more down there, I believe. Oh my goodness. Oh my good. Our anonymous benefactor has struck again, gifting 5 tier 1 subs. Thank you to our anonymous benefactor. I really appreciate it. Wow, thank you. That is fantastic. I actually, by the way, finally got my first check from Twitch the other day. So that really meant a lot, and it went right into the house checking to cover all of the ingredients I've used over the past year, or just shy of a year. It's sometime in June is our 1 year anniversary here. So, yes, thank you to our anonymous benefactor. You have really supported me through all of this, and I thank you ever so much. All right. It's supposed to be 1/8 of a teaspoon of cinnamon, but just a pinch of ground cinnamon. Since I've got the grater out, I'm going to go ahead and just grate some cinnamon stick in there. And I'm probably putting in a little bit too much, but yeah. All right. Okay. Now, a half cup of condensed milk. So, yeah, this is... it turns out, by the way, they now sell condensed milk in these packets here. So I figured it'd be easier to pour. Let's give it a try. Never actually used it in this form factor. It's always come in cans before. And because I have to measure out quite a bit of stuff here, I'm going to be using my big measuring glass. And I need half a cup, so that's 4 ounces. So let me... And this stuff is thick. Might want to grab a spatula to get it all out, but... So as you're probably guessing, it's... this is going to come out a little bit like a milkshake from what I've read. As a matter of fact, some recommendations are to top it with whipped cream, which I'm not going to do, but you can if you'd like. We'll see how it tastes without. Actually, yeah, I am going to grab a spatula here. Tanya Marie says, oh my god, resealable condensed milk. I have to hunt that down. I always end up with part of a can unused that gets thrown out. Yeah, I know. Same here. That's why I was so excited when I saw it. They had it just at QFC, so which for those who are not local is one of our local grocery stores. So, and of course, sweetened condensed milk is just thick as anything, so now here is where I deviate from the recipe just slightly, and again, everyone does it different, so I think that's allowed. But I did not have Guinness here today, but when I was cleaning out my dad's place, I found that my brother had left some beer there. So what we are going to be using today is Pre-Bee Porter from Icicle Creek. See that there? That is, in fact, my brother inventing the beer. So it felt appropriate. Besides, how many people can use beer named after themselves? Well, it's not named after me, but named after my family anyway. All right, so I want 12 ounces of this. And you may be wondering how this is going to work in the blender when it's just going to foam up. And I'm not doing a very good job of pouring this. And the answer is, I'll be careful? I don't know. We'll have to see how it works. But there were several places that did recommend making it in the blender. So, I mean, a whisk wouldn't really help that much or be that much different. And there we go. Is that right? A little bit more. There you go. And if you're wondering for a review of Pre-Bee Porter, I'm not much of a beer girl, but I'll give it a try. It's actually very nice. And like I say, I'm not a beer girl, but it's caramely, nutty, everything you'd want in a porter. But I'm not, again, just saying that because my brother made it. But it is a very nice, very surprisingly approachable porter, which, to be fair, I don't know how that compares to Guinness, so that will probably throw things off. Ogre Marco says, one video I saw, the lady said, you can put whipped cream on top for the kiddies. We're different about drinking down there. And Morning Wind says, maybe I should wear a raincoat for blending this. Probably not a bad idea, and I cleverly put this at the beginning of the show. Let's see. Morning Wind says it looks like a nice beer. Tanya Marie says porters and stouts are very different. I love stout, but not so much porter. And I realized that there was that difference at the end. It is a nice dark beer, but I was hoping that it would be more approachable because, like I say, I'm not normally a beer girl, so it is cheating a little bit, but I couldn't resist. I don't normally do that much with beer on this show, so when I get a chance, I figured I would take it, and it also, literally, it was sitting there in the fridge, and I was like, it's just going to sit in my fridge at home unless I do something with it. So, alright, let's see. That should be everything. Oh, 3 drops of Angostura bitters. I missed that one. Which doesn't seem like a whole lot of bitters for this. Maybe I meant dashes, but 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm going to put in at least a 4th one, just because Angostura has some good flavor to it. All right. Wish me luck. Start off on low here. It's not foaming up, so. Now, I don't have any ice in here, so I'm not going to bother running it on high or anything. This is just mixing it up, really. Well, actually, no, I am going to put it up on high just to froth it up a bit. And I'm not going to worry about doing it on ice crush or anything because there's no ice in there. All right. Tanya Marie says, I've never had a sweet tasting porter. So I should clarify, relatively sweet. Because I've had some, I think I was comparing it to stouts, which are a lot more bitter to me. They also have a version of this beer that's pretty porter. It's called Dark Persuasion, which is essentially this beer, but with coconut and chocolate in it. And it is amazing. Let's see. Winter Vesper says, I'm not a beer girl either, but I was tempted by the recent Bud Light controversy. Yes, I will get to that in a second. Ogre Marco says, I've had the Preview Porter. It's different than Guinness, but we'll see how this goes. My guess is ridiculously sweet, which would be good for Lori's. Okay. Winter Vesper's ducks under a table during the blending. It actually did not foam up or anything. I think if I blended it or poured it right after I finished blending it, it might have gotten a better head on it or something. It certainly smells interesting. Anyway, the Dark Persuasion is actually a fairly sweet beer because of the chocolate and the coconut in it. They actually did one that was aged in, I believe, whiskey barrels for a while, and that was called Darker Persuasion. And then they did one that was aged even longer in those whiskey barrels called Darkest Persuasion. Those last two I haven't tried. Anyway, down the hatch. That is really good, actually. Tastes kind of like a chocolate milkshake, but not. I don't know. Lots of vanilla, definitely. Yeah, lots of vanilla. You do get the nutmeg. Not much in the way of the cinnamon, in my opinion. Definitely none of the Angostura. It's completely lost there. But that is actually really nice. Very creamy. And it's got all the nutrients a growing girl needs. So, one more taste here. Now I've had all of this stuff sitting out. The beer I took out of the fridge right before I left, so this is not terribly cold. I'm kind of interested to see how it would be if it had been, all this had been refrigerated, or after this has been refrigerated for a while. Winter Vespers asks if it's sweet. Yes, it is absolutely Absolutely sweet. Ogre Marco says it should have just a light skim of foam on the top. Well, I mean, see if you can see it there. There is a bit of a foam, but it's the same color, just slightly different color than the rest of it. Ogre Marco says success then, because a Guinness one definitely has notes of dark chocolate malted. Yep. So there we go. Lori, you want to give this a try? I think you might actually like it.
I know. You see that.
Hey, you want to come on camera? She's making a face just smelling it.
I don't really want to go on camera today.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I am not in camera ready form.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it would be better cold. Right now it tastes kind of like a warm milkshake.
Okay.
It's I get some notes of chocolate, but mostly it's just kind of sweet. And then there's like an after flavor that's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's not herbal or maybe floral, but it's definitely not fruity, whatever that after piece is.
Yeah, so it's got kind of baking spices, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly that.
The
hits it on
nutmeg.
head. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess the Angostura and the nutmeg and the cinnamon are showing up mostly in the aftertaste of it. But yeah, it's very nice. I think that if I were to do this in the future, I would probably double the nutmeg, the Angostura, or maybe not the nutmeg, but definitely the cinnamon and the Angostura on that, because like I say, the Angostura is mostly lost. I am going to pour this back in here and then stick it all in the fridge for a bit, and we'll try it again at the end and see if it cools, if it's better cold. And if actually, I'm going to see. Should I stick it in the freezer? Because actually, I don't think I can fit it in the freezer.
No, you can't.
All right. Well, here I'll pour myself a little bit just to drink as I work. And then I'll put the rest of it in the fridge for right now, and we'll see how it is. Here? What?
Am I in the way? Yeah, that's why I was waiting to hand her to you.
Okay. Unfortunately, our refrigerator is very full at the moment, so it's taking a minute to...
Refrigerator Jenga.
Yes. Hello. Aww. Hello. This is the cat tax for the day. Lily has decided that I am not the mama she wants, and so she is only looking behind me. She will not look in the camera today. All right, here she goes.
Here she goes. This will do.
So yes, Lily is our diva for the evening. Becky is hiding as usual. All right.
I just started a new job and my coworkers love Lily.
So, here we go. I'll hand her back to her.
Just put her down.
Oh, down you go. Good girl. All right, and she runs away. All right. So, that was Guinness Punch. I am pleasantly surprised with that. That was, not that I thought it was going to be awful, but it ended up being really, really tasty. All right, so I'm going to tidy up a little bit, and then we'll go on to the next. So, actually, why don't I'll just put these over here now. Okay, and I'll finish up this beer later. So yeah, I definitely think that it would be different with the stout instead of the porter. I thought this was just lovely as it was, so I'd be interested to try the actual Guinness next time. All right, so Rosemary roasted cashews. As I said, cleaning up loose plot threads. which, as you'll remember, in the same episode where I was trying out, well, actually, I think it was just last episode, last actual episode of Drinking with Dana, I made rosemary roasted cashews from a recipe by Ina Garten from the Food Network site. And they were okay. They weren't that great. I overcooked them, and they were kind of off. And so I want to do them again because I took some time and I actually tried them again, and I actually figured it out. I adjusted some things, and they were so much better. So I didn't want to just leave it there with the one that didn't turn out right. I want to actually show you the real one. Ogre Marco says that that it was just I think he was screaming at the kitty as everyone else in chat had. And Morning Wind said that Lily was so sweet. Ogre Marco says for the kitties, the Guinness punch is nearly a dessert. I would say that is accurate. So, as I recall, last time I didn't have the coating ready, and since I'm going to cook them for less time this time, I want to actually at least start that, because I always end up talking while I should be cooking, which, kind of my job here, but I'm supposed to be doing both. And again, which, let's see, I think I brought this up last time. One of the reasons why I wanted to get this recipe right is because last summer, Lori had a series of doctor's appointments, and I took her to them, and one of the things I would do while waiting for her was there was a little cafe nearby, and they had the best roasted nuts, and they were mostly I can't remember if they were mixed nuts or cashews. Cashews were definitely in there. And so I, had been looking for this a recipe for roasted nuts for a while. Roasted spice nuts, I should say, or, well, herb nuts or sweetened. I don't know how you would describe it best. Ina calls them, rosemary roasted cashews. This is, which is, I guess, what they are. But they have other spices in there and a bunch of sweet too. The ones that I had definitely had a bit of a coating, but they weren't like lacquered with sugar or anything. And when I made these last time, they didn't even have really much of a coating on them. So I thought that the first thing I did was I just upped the sugar. So, and that seems to have brought things together. Can't talk tonight. A little bit more. I also just amped up the spices that are in here, except for the cayenne pepper, because Lori doesn't like things too spicy, and it was just on the edge of being too spicy last time. So, and I actually last time made a mistake and put in double the rosemary. So, and that was fine. So I just left that on the recipe itself. What else did I change? Can't remember if I increased the melted butter. I added salt, even though I'm using salted cashews. Let's see. Basically, I just amped up everything in the coating and kept the amount of cashews the same. Now, I do realize that if folks do not have a scale to measure these things out, it's going to be a pain to get 12 ounces of cashews. Sorry about that. It's, 3/4 of a pound. It's, just kind of eyeball it and you'll probably be okay. You could also just scale up to a pound, or, kind of rough estimate. Probably be fine. Just add a little bit more of everything and use the whole pound. I have a scale, so I used it. Let's see. Tanya says rosemary is one of those herbs you can usually use more than a recipe calls for. Garlic is another. Absolutely. Yeah, this is not a thing where you have to, adding extra rosemary is going to be a problem. At the very least, it will probably just not, extra will not stick as well because there's only so much that the butter and sugar will hold on there. So it'll just end up coating the bottom of your bowl, which is fine. You can just then scoop it up afterwards. And like Tanya says, a little too much rosemary is not going to be a problem. Now, this rosemary, again, I just got out of our yard because it's starting to grow again, and I needed to prune it back anyway. It's actually starting to bloom out there, and I thought briefly about getting some of those nice blue flowers to toss in with this, but I didn't think it would turn out nice. So maybe it would have. Have to try that next time. But I didn't want to do it when I was trying to get the recipe actually right on camera. Alright. And I'm just going to chop this all up. How's everyone else doing, by the way? Oh, Ogre says, too much rosemary. This is great. Too much cloves. I can see through time. Yes, that is accurate. That is 100% accurate. Although I am a big fan of cloves, too, I have to say. And it's probably from going to certain formative parties where people were smoking cloves. But I don't know, I've just always liked the flavor and the smell of cloves. But yes, too much is too much with cloves. Anyway, I was asking how everyone was doing because it's been a little rough out there for everyone lately. If anyone is watching this in Florida, you have my profound sympathies, and I hope that you stay safe. Really, anywhere in the South is getting rough, especially for trans folks. Please take care of yourself no matter where you are. We need to watch out for each other and make sure that we take care of ourselves too. So I try not to bring in politics or that kind of thing very much on this show, just because I want it to be a respite from that, but man, it's making it hard. People are making it hard to ignore it for any length of time. They say I'm up here in Washington, Seattle, where it's very safe. I would recommend folks can, get here if you can, but I also know it's completely too overpriced, and people shouldn't have to move when, just because politicians are jerks, but here we are. So, all right. Winter Visitor says, like you, we're lucky enough to live in a safe state. Good. I'm very glad. And I know other folks out there are likewise in safe places, but not everyone, who, comments in the chat, and hopefully folks are watching on YouTube. I hope they're safe out there too. So, all right. And also, I've become way too terminally online. I need to pull back from reading that news. It's just not healthy anymore. So I need 2 tablespoons of of rosemary. So there's 1. And I actually chopped up too much this time, which is good because that means I don't have to chop up more. All right, that's 2. And then let me grab a small dish here. Nice. I always forget to do this part. Preparation. All right, I need a tablespoon and a half of melted butter. So that's right around there. Might be a little much, but. And I'm just going to cut that into chunks because it'll melt better. At least I think it does. It's already pretty warm here. good. So we have bread with there. All right. So, actually, I think we're getting close enough that I can start sticking the cashews in the oven. Now, I went ahead and pre-weighed these ahead of time just because it seemed like the right thing to do. And I'm just going to, again, evenly distribute these across a cookie sheet lined with foil. I didn't actually have time to check to see if that's what I did last time, but it seems like the kind of thing I would do. So, I'm going to stick this in here and set a timer for 7 minutes. Now, last time I put them in for 10, and they didn't quite burn, but they were everything but burnt. So, I'm putting them in for 7. I'll check them. If they seem a little underdone, I'll put them in, leave them in for another minute. But we're going to then take them out, coat them, just like we did last time. And then we're actually going to put them back in because I'm really amping up the coating on here. And so it needs a little extra time in the oven to sort of bake in, as it were. This is the, let's see, tablespoon and a half of dark brown sugar. Let's see, I'm going to kind of eyeball that a little bit. It is a little bit more. Okay, the same, the homemade dark brown sugar that I made last time. Same jar and everything. And yes, I'm being a little fast and loose. I should have actually measured out a tablespoon and then a teaspoon and then a half a teaspoon. But it's really hot in here right now. So, let's see. Ogre Marco says, what I was talking about earlier is why he killed his Twitter account. I tried to leave at one point, and then I had to go back to check things, and I was going back to advertise this show and stuff, and then I got sucked back in again. But yeah, I cannot recommend the experience of being there. Lori says that she has tried the results of the last time I made this recipe, and to say that she's excited that she gets to eat it after the show is an understatement. So, well, hopefully it works out as good the second time. Nice thing about that Guinness Punch is, like I said, it's very low alcohol. So you can just sit there and drink that. Well, I'm not sure you could drink that all day. There's a lot of milk and such in there. So it is a little on the sweet side. Yeah, I think the Guinness would. The thing I've heard about using Guinness in that is that Guinness is pretty bitter, and using all the other ingredients blunts that bitterness. So, anyway, 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And I am, again, using roasted salted cashews. So yes, there is a lot of salt on these. These are going to be well salted. But I think that's perfectly fine. It'll sell more drinks. For those who are unfamiliar, the reason why bars often sell salty snacks is because it makes people thirstier, so they sell more drinks. So, all right, I'm adding the 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. You can add more to taste, but Lori and I are pretty much wimps in terms of spice. So, and let me. Here, I'm just gonna melt that butter quickly. That's about right. Okay, I just stuck that in the microwave for a minute or two, and it is all melted. It's also very hot. And So, just adding that in with everything else. Then we'll stir it together. Gotta make sure all the butter's in there, though. Otherwise, it might be healthy. And of course, I'm using salted butter, too, so that's another source of salt. So, let's see. Ogre Marco says, I miss a few Twitter things, but people reblog the site. People reblog the Iron Sheik's daily weirdness on Discord, so I'm okay. Yeah, I stumbled across a site that was the feminist Iron Sheik, which is a parody of the Iron Sheik, but I don't think I've seen the actual Iron Sheik in a while. Okay. That is all mixed together, and if it cools down, the butter cools down and starts to harden again, that's fine. When I take the cashews out, they will be hot and will mix in just fine. Melt all the butter again, sorry. So yes, we have another couple days. Yeah, the only site that I really, there are a few people that I follow on Twitter still, they're kind of must-haves for me. Lyra, or Pink Ranger LB, who was the lawyer we did the charity stream for last Christmas, is always very interesting and very good. And then Aaron Reed's recording is the thing that always draws me back. And it's always something horrible that's happening to trans folks, but, it's still good to know that what it is. So, yeah. And she does, report all the good stuff too. It's just it comes in cycles. So, yeah, I tried to switch over to Spoutable as sort of, as I described it, a Twitter methadone, but it didn't really stick. I'm hoping Blue Sky does that, but I'm nervous about Blue Sky too. We'll see how that's going. Morning Wind says, I watch Erin Reed on TikTok. Yes, also good. I'm also on her Substack, but she doesn't do the play-by-plays there. She doesn't do the live streams of the state congresses and that kind of thing there. I never got into to TikTok, and I'm sure I would enjoy it, but okay, that definitely looks like it's ready to come out. And as I said, I'm going to be, let's see, let me move this around a little bit so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. All right, here we go. So, the cashews definitely warmed up, definitely a little darker, not completely dark. That's fine, because we're going to put that back in the oven in a minute. Let's just put the foil back down here. And stir this in. Make sure everything gets nice and coated. And it does tend to kind of clump up a little bit, so you have to break up those clumps. It'll stick to the spoon, which is unfortunate. And yes, I do just use my fingers to clear out the spoon. Don't tell anyone. I think I mentioned on here before, I can't remember if I did or not, I once saw my favorite saying about that kind of thing, which is, this is made just, what was it? Everything here is homemade and made with love, which means I licked the spoon and then kept using it. All right. Of course, I spilled stuff on the floor here too. All right, so again, want to try and get a single layer as much as possible. I am not everything. It did in fact stick to the cashews. I think if I had stirred it for a little longer, maybe I could have gotten that to all come out. But I think it'll be fine. There's still a lot more flavor on here than there was last time. And I fully admit that I tend to like big, bold flavors, especially on snacks, which these really are. So, maybe you would like the original version better. Like I say, I tend to like this better just because it's got more flavor. But to each their own. With all of these recipes, adjust it to taste. If you want to add in other seasonings. I was actually toying with the idea of maybe some cinnamon in these might be interesting, or other flavors, but I was trying to keep it as close to the spirit of the original as possible. So, alright, these are going to go in for another 2 minutes. Alright, Ogre says, very golden. Morning Wind laughed at the Made with Love saying, and Tanya Marie says, maybe some people don't like flavor. I don't know. It could just be that I've burned out my taste buds. It's, perfectly reasonable assumption, quite frankly. Let's see. Ogre also said, I'm not sure what this was in reference to, but it's mostly the same, but the feminist Iron Sheik versus the regular one with, it's mainly the same, but replace the patriarchy with Hulk Hogan. Also surprisingly supportive of everyone, but Hulk Hogan. All right, then. Winter Vesper says, after Twitter, I moved to TikTok, but I'm keeping social media bags packed. Yeah, I know everyone gives your information to everyone. And I know that the government's grandstanding about China and the TikTok and that. I never got into it. So, don't get me wrong. If someone posts a TikTok, I'll watch it. And someone was shocked that I didn't have a TikTok account because, quote, you post all the best TikToks. I was like, well, I just see that someone else has posted them on Discord, and I repost them on different Discord servers. Discord is, of course, my main. So this is something I found very funny, and I did set the timer. Is that no one really counts Discord as social media, even though it really is. It's just sort of, I'm going to be on this. Well, and also Discord, of course. I really like Discord. So Lori says that TikTok has a history of terrible security and privacy vulnerabilities. Yeah, that is true. All right. So let me take this out and see how it is. I stepped on the cashew. The cats will get that later. All right. These look about right. I could probably stick it in there. Yeah, I'll leave it in there for a minute longer. Just to... All right. Anyway, right. So yeah, no, I love Discord. I should probably set up my own Discord for the show. I just am way too lazy to actually moderate anything. So you can catch me over on the Trans Versus one every now and again, although I'm not even on there as much as I used to be. Let's see. Winter Vesper says, I'm just nervous it'll be taken away. TikTok, yeah, that could be. Ogre Marco says, TikTok takes hours from you. It's like the enemy of productivity. Ask me how I know. I can totally believe that. I am actually, fun fact, I'm actually on a lower dose of my ADHD meds right now because there's an ADHD med shortage in this country, and so I have not been able to get my prescription filled for going on 3 weeks now. So, be glad I took it at all today. All right. Fortunately, I had a stash hidden away somewhere. All right. So, here we are. Those are the cashews. And I will get down a nice bowl. Put these in. If I remember right, they more or less fit in here. And fortunately, the foil, being nice and thin, is cool enough to handle. You can just pick it up and dump it in, like that. I won't put them all in here because I don't want to overwhelm it. But... All right. Now, these are blazingly hot right now, so I'm going to let them cool a little bit before I try them. And while I do that, I'm going to clean up a bit and get ready for the second cocktail of the evening. Let's see. Ooh, wait a minute. There we So, I didn't have a real great reason to clean up these lingering plot threads other than it seemed like a good theme for the show this week. Yeah, we'll see. Next week's theme, and not all of these shows are going to have themes to them, but they tend to because that's how I can figure out what to group together. Next week's theme is going to be, this is the closest show to my birthday, so it's going to be whatever I feel like. But we'll see what that ends up being. I'm fairly sure there's going to be a Mai Tai involved in there. So, all right. Let's see if these are cooled down enough to try one. No, they're still blazingly hot. All right. Actually, they're probably... Here, let me take the foil off. Spread them out a little bit. They'll cool down faster that way. And no, I'm going to do that there. And let's see this. Okay. Of course it did. All right. So, I'm just going to go ahead and burn my mouth. So much more flavor than last time. Definitely sweet, but so much more. I mean, even though I use the same amount of rosemary, there's just more of it there. Definitely the same amount of cayenne as last time. But it's more muted because there's more of the brown sugar, more of the butter, to kind of mute that fire, but you can definitely tell it's there. Yeah, and I think the reason why there's more of the rosemary flavor is just because it's stuck to it better, because there is more of a coating on there. You get a little bit of a caramel flavor to them. And of course it tastes like cashews, which cashews don't have the strongest flavor, but it's a definitive flavor to it. Tanya Marie asks, is the rosemary fresher this time? Nope, exactly the same as last time. Last time I just went out and cut it and chopped it up, same as this time. Morning Wind says, oh dear, I would eat the whole bowl over a movie. Yeah, that's kind of, well, I would say I would do that's pretty much what happened last time, but it turns out they're still nuts, and that has effects on your stomach if you eat too many of them. So there is a bit of a limit on them. But that's like, when you're half a bowl down, you're like, I'm going to regret this later. Tony Marie asks, I mean, chopping it straight out of your garden is as fresh as it gets, right? Yeah, no, that's basically it. That is, if I am a big gardener. My mom was a huge gardener. She was, big in garden club and all that. And I, even when I had an apartment with just a balcony, I had boxes of, basically planter boxes, and I would grow, a couple of vegetables, but it wasn't really worth it. But growing herbs, even if you just have like a little space on a patio, definitely worthwhile. Um, just knowing that you don't have to run to the store because you need rosemary or chives or parsley is huge. Um, Things that have basil in them and tomatoes have become, well, tomatoes are vegetables, obviously, but, well, fruits, but we're not getting into that now. But having the basil out there means, when I'm growing basil, I just go out and I can pick however many leaves I need for whatever I'm doing. And it's just so nice. Um, Lori says we ate quite a lot on date night when we were watching a movie. Yeah, we went through most of the bowl. Uh, and Morning Wind says that sounds delightful to Lori. And but anyway, yes. So I highly recommend just if you have any space at all, even if you don't think, most herbs grow like weeds. Although, if you want a piece of gardening advice for herbs, my mom always said, if you want your herbs to grow, use them. And I don't know why it works, but it does. So the more, if you cut off your chives, they'll just grow more. If you cut back your rosemary, it grows more. That's just how it works. So, all right. These are delightful. I recommend them. This is the recipe to use. Ignore what I said last time. All right. So let me get these out of here. Turn off the stove too, because as I mentioned, it is very hot in here. You might actually be able to pull back a little bit on the salt. I like a lot of salt on these. I say I like it having a pretty bold flavor, and salt is one of the things that does that. But they are pretty salty. All right, the last thing I'm doing today, switch over, is the Agent of Darkness. So, as you'll recall, I think actually, again, from the last episode of Drinking with Dana that I did some cocktails from Rev Joe over on TikTok, which we were just talking about. And I'll put the link in the comments. I did not put it in here, but just search for, I believe it's revjoe.uu on TikTok. She is a Universal Unitarian minister, and she's very queer and gay and trans supportive, so on and so forth. And because she's queer and trans supportive, she gets called all sorts of insulting names, which she then takes to her husband, who makes her a drink with that name. And the videos with those are always great. I've made a couple of at least one of her cocktails on this show. And it was really good. I really liked it. This one is, and by the way, thank you to Morning Wind, and I think it's Morning Wind who has been suggesting them to me over on the Transverse the whole time. I couldn't remember if Winter Vespers had suggested one or two as well, but Morning Wind always points me to those videos, which are fantastic, and I found some really good cocktails with those. This is one of them. So this is the Agent of Darkness, and it's kind of a chocolate old-fashioned. So I'm just going to go ahead and build this right in my glass, and my very fancy glass with I don't know if you can see it here, with a monogram on it, which I may have absconded from my folks' place with. Well, technically I'm inheriting it, but I don't actually even need a shaker. Like I said, excuse me, I'm going to build it in the glass and just go from there. So we need 2 dashes of chocolate bitters, and the chocolate bitters I have are uh, Bitterman's Oxlotl, which is completely mispronounced, but the Mole bitters, which I will show over here. There you go, Bitterman. I really like these. They have some nice flavors. Winter Vespers does assure me that it was Morning Wind who pointed me at these. Um, let's see. Morning Wind says, I have to read up on bitters. They're all those different types. So, yes, they are. There's been a renaissance in bitters with the more recent cocktail renaissance itself. You're right. There are a ton out there. Really, if you have Angostura bitters, that's 99% of what you're going to need in any kind of cocktail. There are some that use Peychaud's bitters, and those are for, I think, Negronis and one or two other things. A lot less commonly used. Orange bitters are nice to have on hand just because I like them in old fashions usually. There are a few other things that they're nice in. But beyond that, it's whatever, the only other time I really use different kinds of bitters, unless something calls for it, is like when I make a Manhattan. I use the tiki bitters that I have that I really like. Things like that. So if you have Angostura, one. Let's see. Actually, where is it? Over here. This little bottle has lasted me for at least 2 decades, and probably a lot longer than that. It's you don't use very much of them unless you're like Greg over on How to Drink, who uses a ton of them, and also makes things like a Queen's Park Swizzle, which uses like an ounce or an ounce and a half of Angostura bitters. There are some other big bitters cocktails. He did a whole video on them. I've never tried that. I do kind of want to try the Queen's Park Swizzle because it sounds interesting. He actually even made Queen's Park Swizzle ice cream. So you'll have to go check his channel out for that. But I'm making an Agent of Darkness now. Basically, bitters are highly concentrated concoctions of herbs and spices and all sorts of good stuff in a little bit of alcohol. You can actually just get some seltzer water and add a few drops of bitters to it. Some people say you can put a few drops of bitters over vanilla ice cream, and it's really good. So I've never done either of those things, but I believe them when they say you can do that. So. All right, that's roughly 2 dashes. The Bitterman's bitters come with a eyedropper, so I figure about 3 or 4 drops is a dash. All right, and you want a drizzle of maraschino cherry juice. Let me grab a spoon for this. And they call for Luxardo cherries, which, again, I didn't have, but my friends Gina and Jeffrey gave me these very fancy maraschino cherries. It's getting dark in here. I should probably turn on the light. So it's Oracella, I believe is how you pronounce that. Oracella maraschino cocktail cherries. So I'm going to... Let me turn on the lights. I got so caught up in the fact that it was a gorgeous day here today, and quite frankly, we are going to have none of that for the next couple of weeks. So, that seems like a drizzle. Like half a bar spoon, I'm going to guess. I'll leave that open because I am actually going to get some cherries out to garnish this with. And then I need an ounce of creamed cacao. And I'm using the clear creme de cacao, or creme de cacao, here. And just decouper, because it's what I have. Right, we're going to put an ounce in there. And then we need 3 ounces of bourbon. And I'm going to open up this bottle of Knob Creek Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, which is 100 proof bourbon. So it's a little overproofed. But again, it's what I had here. And I'm scattering chunks of wax everywhere. I haven't opened this bottle I got it a while ago, and it's been sitting on my bar for a bit, so I'll clean that up later. I'm using this mostly because I'm running shy of all of my other bourbons except for like Jim Beam, and I thought that I would use a nicer bourbon than that here. So now, actually, before I add that, I'm going to go ahead and add my ice. With an old-fashioned or other, and this is kind of, like I say, a riff on an old-fashioned, you want to use a big piece of ice. And, again, I'm continuing the theme of things people gave me. A long time ago, someone gave me a big Death Star ice cube tray, mold. And so that's what I use for my big ice. Although I have added one of those big square ice cubes trays to my birthday list. So maybe someone will get me that for my birthday. I will finally have different ice. Not that I care. This is great, but it only makes enough ice for one. So now I'm just going to stir this up. And unfortunately, because I put the ice in halfway through, it is kind of keeping the cherry juice and the bourbon a little separated there. Actually, I think that's also just because it's a little denser there. I should probably have added that. Now, I do try and add these in, the order that I always say that you want to add the most expensive ingredients last, in case you screw up along the way. This was one that I might not have wanted to do that. All right. And then I get a couple of these nice cherries here. And just skewer it on a little plastic skewer. It's a single-use plastic skewer. That seems like a pretty Agent of Darkness kind of thing to do. All right, let's see. Gotta make sure I've got the... there it is. Here we are. So, let me see if I can get the back camera working here. There we are. Let's see if I can get the flashlight on there. No. I forgot to turn the flashlight off and the batteries are dead. But that's what it looks like. And it does kind of look like there's a frog asleep in my drink. But, Ember Leo says hi and then has to reboot her computer. Oh no. Tanya Marie says that's some of the good stuff there. Assuming talking about the bourbon, yeah, that is nice stuff. I actually have a couple bottles of it, and I think I know it's because my mom read a series of detective novels, and the main character in them drank Knob Creek bourbon, and so I have Knob Creek bourbon because she thought I should have it to go along with that. Winter Whisper says, I can't unsee the frog, right? should be a Death Star in there and all that. Nope, Frog. Frog is the agent of darkness. All right, so we're gonna take off the garnish here. Set it off to. Let's see. I just got rid of the thing that I could set it on, but here I'll. Cheers. So yes, it is a chocolate old fashioned. It is bourbon and chocolate, and you get nice caramel notes from the bourbon. It is a very spirit forward drink. The bourbon that you use is going to make a difference here. Let's see. Oh, here. The chocolate actually really does bring out those caramel notes. Maybe a little bit of peanutty flavor to it, but that's from the bourbon. You don't get a lot of the cherry, and maybe that's because it's all at the bottom. You do get I'm getting a little bit of spice, and I think that is from the bitters because they are mole. They do have some spice to them. Um, it is sweeter than most old fashions, just because an old fashioned is normally made with a single sugar cube and then like 3 ounces of bourbon, and this is got not only the maraschino cherry juice, but also the creme de cacao, which is very sweet. So, and it goes just lovely with these nuts. So, yes, this is one of the everything that Rev Joe makes, or well, her husband makes, presumably, is very good. Uh, there are a couple that I think are better than the others. The one I made last time with the tart cherry juice in it, um, and this one are two of my favorites that they've made so far. So I'm not saying I'm tying off the Rev Joe plot line here, but let's just say this is an update for now. I may do an episode in the future that's just more of her drinks as she comes up with them, or her husband does. Ogre Marco says, so keep Jimmy B's unfinished crap away. Actually, no, Jim Beam is fine, especially for use in cocktails. There's a reason I own a bottle of it. First of all, it's perfectly drinkable. It's not top of the line. It is, I consider it kind of, your base level. It is perfectly fine. And when you start adding stuff in, like, an ounce of creme de cacao, or, if you just have like an ounce of bourbon and then a bunch of other things, it's just going to cover up the flavor of the bourbon anyway. Why use your fancy Knob Creek that, your parents paid a lot of money for? Use your Jim Beam for that. I own a bottle of Jack Daniels for the exact same reason. Well, actually, I don't think I have Jack Daniels anymore, but I have a relatively cheap, blended whiskey that I use for that same purpose. If you're just going to cover it up, don't worry about it. If you happen to have a nicer bottle, also, if you enjoy Jim Beam, enjoy your Jim Beam. I am happy for you. I'm glad that makes you happy. I have certainly drunk my fair share of Jim Beam and Jack Daniels in my day. So it is definitely, fine. And like I say, especially for making cocktails. So I do not turn up my nose at anyone drinking, cheaper booze because they have to or because they want to. So, Ogre Marco, I can tell you're not a fan. He thinks it tastes like gas. That's fine. It's not for you. Did Winter Vespers asks if I have time for a story. Yes, please. I lowered the redemption costs for for the drink tickets there. I've been waiting for this. Yes. So Winter Vespers redeem Tell Me a Story, which I will absolutely do. But first, I was going to say, Ember Leo says, I have less against Jack than Jim. That's perfectly fine as well. Find what you like and then drink it. That is the whole point. I actually a little bit saddened just because I tend to spend my drinking days trying to find new drinks for the show. So there's a lot of drinks that I really like that I haven't had a chance to drink in a while. I may take a break or revisit some things later on. All right, so I have for your story redemption. I have a few options. I have a couple of hiking stories. One very gross, one not. And then I have a story about back when I used to work. So, which would you like? I have a whole list of them here, but those are the good ones. I think I've told about the first time I cooked for Lori. But Tanya Marie's got to head out, so have a great evening. Cheers, Tanya. I'll see you soon. And Relio says, when all the honey whiskeys hit the market, I got a sample of each one. I could find that and determined that I liked Honey Jack the best, but Jim wasn't the worst of them. I think that was something. Oh, yes, what the turkey one? Wild turkey. All right. Winter Vespers wants me to pick. I will tell. Oh, I'm just drunk enough to tell the gross hiking story. All right. So this was back when I was in college. Oh wait. Okay. Yeah, the honey whiskeys. I will. That's a different story for a different time. Anyway, so yes. So for those who don't know, I got my degree in chemistry from the University of Washington, and this was back in the anyway a long time ago. And at the time, I was getting very much into hiking as well. Partially from some friends, partially because my brother was a big hiker, and I was basically disassociating because I had undiagnosed ADHD and gender dysphoria. So, I was, they said, "Oh, we're going to do this hike." I said, "Sure." Now, at the time, we had been doing all sorts of just small hikes, and this was the first real mountain. The first one where you had to know how to rope up if you needed to. The first one where you needed to know how to use an ice axe to stop yourself if you started sliding down the mountain. And my thing is, I'm a very slow hiker, but I can just hike forever. Or I could back then. Not so much anymore, but I could back then. All right, so that's all background information. Back to the chemistry part. I was taking organic chemistry lab at the time, and organic chemistry lab, and we were doing something called unknown analysis. That's where they give you a little vial of something and say, figure out what it is. And you then use all the tests that they taught you throughout the year to figure out what's in that vial. Great. Well, I had done the first one, and we were on to the second one, which is two different things mixed together, and you had to figure out what they both were. Great. And the TA that was working in there, cute little blonde woman, really nice, and she said, look, I know you're a chemistry major, and I know you really like this stuff, which I did. I thought it was fascinating and a lot of fun to figure it out. It kind of, as Lori joked about earlier, kind of detective work. And she said, so I know you're a chemistry major and you really like this stuff. So I gave you a hard one, but be kind of careful. One of the chemicals in there is kind of nasty. So just, be careful with it. I was like, okay, no problem. Well, that was on, I didn't want to say Thursday. I think the lab was Tuesday and Thursday. So that was on Thursday. And we were going to climb Mount Adams, which, as I mentioned, is the first real mountain that you climb. Um, and so we went out and we did. And you go hike up to this place called Lunch Counter, and then you spend the night there. And then the next night, you grab all your gear, you hike up to the summit, then you hike back down, and then you hike back down to your car because it's all downhill, so it goes a lot faster. At least that's how it would normally go, except that my brother, being my brother, talked me into bringing my downhill ski gear with me. Now, he had this special fancy set of gear where he could just clamp it onto his regular hiking boots, but I had to climb up wearing, we're carrying my downhill ski boots, my heavy 19 era downhill skis, and like I say, I'm a slow hiker to begin with, so I'm out there tromping up this hill. Everyone else has long since passed me by, but I'm hiking up there, carrying all this stuff, just putting my one foot in front of the other. And one of the things they tell you about this mountain is that the false summit is going to destroy you. So what that means is you hike and you hike and you hike and you think, oh, there's the summit up there. I'm nearly there. And then you get up and you realize that's not actually the summit. That's just the end of a ridge. And you have an entire another mountain to climb in front of you. And you have to go down before you can start going up again. And so I hiked all day and I was exhausted. Now, it was gorgeous sunny weather and the sun was reflecting off the snow. I mean, because we were in snow up to, basically, if it hadn't been all packed down from all the people going in front of us, it would have been up to my waist at the very least, before it packed down enough for me to hike through it. So I was stripped down to just my shorts. Back then I could take my shirt off, so I did. And I'm hiking up there, and it takes me hours and hours. And eventually I get up to the false summit. And of course, it does destroy me psychologically. And everyone else has been waiting there for like 2 hours. And I'm exhausted. And I can't go on. They're like, we're going to go ahead and summit. We'll come back here and meet you, and we'll just go back down from here. You're not summiting today. I was like, you're absolutely right. I'm not summiting today. So I sit there and I wait and I recover my breath. Because, there's also altitude sickness and all this other stuff. So I'm sitting and it's gorgeous and the snow feels good because it's so hot. And I strap on my, Dean comes back, my brother comes back, and we strap on our skis and we ski down, as he describes, the longest ski run in Washington State. And it's actually a lot of fun skiing down, but I am so just physically and emotionally exhausted, I did not appreciate it. Especially when I fell at one point and everything in my backpack shifted to one side, so I was skiing like this for half of the run. And we get back down to Lunch Counter, we get our stuff, pack it all away. My brother and I are driving home by ourselves because we knew we would be the fastest ones down. So we ski down the rest of the way until we run out of snow. And again, I am so mentally and emotionally exhausted. I just take off my skis and, put them over my shoulder and just hike the rest of the way in my ski boots because I don't want to change shoes. I am just fried. And I get back to my apartment that night and realize that I have somewhere between second and third degree burns all over my face and the rest of my body because I'd been I had put on suntan lotion once each day as we got up, and then of course proceeded to sweat it all off, and that only lasts for they only last for a couple hours to begin with, and I'd been hiking for 8 or 9 hours in the sun with the sun being reflected off the snow back at me and all this. So I go to the doctors, the urgent care, and they basically say, yeah, no, that's I can't remember if they said second or third degree burns, but there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait for it to go away, and hopefully you're not too badly scarred up and all that. And meanwhile, and this is where you might want to mute this bit because this is where it gets gross. Um, Literally, all of my skin on my face has dried out and is like leather, and it starts to crack, and there's stuff oozing out from between the cracks on my skin, and the rest of my body's just burnt to a crisp, and I like have to and I have to go back to class on Monday like this, and so I literally have to carry a wet washcloth with me to keep my face moist, otherwise the skin will crack and dry out and tighten up, and it's just painful, and I just look like something out of a horror movie. And Tuesday comes around, and I got stuff oozing out of my face. It's gotten, if anything, like darker and drier, and it's just horrifying. And I walk into my chemistry lab class and walk up to that poor TA and say, "Man, you weren't kidding about that chemical being nasty." And she just looks at me and starts hyperventilating and says, it matched just to squeak out, please tell me it was the chemical that did that to you. And I said, no. I took mercy on her immediately. It's like, no. This is my own dang fault. This is nothing you did. So that is the story of how I melted my face off. So, Morning Winds as oof, false summits are awful. Yes, they absolutely are. This was serious stuff. Lori says that I have only recently gotten good about putting on sunscreen. Yes, it started about the time I started hormones, and also when the surgeon who did my face told me I had to start wearing sunscreen. It's like, all right. Scott says, I'm glad you're okay. Me too. There's no reason why I should not have scars all over my face. I just got very lucky. Actually, this is, I'm going to get gross again for a second. I actually read Chuck Yeager's autobiography because my brother was really into it and he recommended it. I read it and it was good. But he got burned up. He was a test pilot for a long time. And one of the planes he was in burst into flames and he couldn't get out, and he had burns all over most of his body. And basically the thing they had to do was peel off all the dead and burnt skin. And that's how he didn't end up with scars all over his body. And so I was like, right, I know what to do now. So, yeah. So that's the only reason why I look as decent as I do now. Anyway, so that's what you get when you return. Not all. Actually, no. That's the only gross. Well, there is one other kind of gross story, but that's one of the longer stories too. I figured as the first redeemer of that points redeem, you should get the good long one. So I hope it was worth the points. And on that note, I think we're going to call it good for tonight. Again, cheers. Thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to look for a raid tonight. I'm just not up to it right now. Again, to plug the things, Surf by Surfwest is where the Destroyers are going to be playing. That's on July 21st. All on the Table Side Quest episode is on youtube.com/@thetransverse. It is very fun. It is the prequel to the superhero game that I'm going to be playing over there. Or actually, I've already started. They're recording it and they're going to be releasing the episodes later. I'm not playing the same character. This one I got to play a very creepy, spooky character. The one I'm playing in the future, I'm playing kind of the opposite of that. I can't wait for you guys to meet Amber. And of course, you can always find all of the previous episodes of Drinking with Dana and Dana Reviews Things up on youtube.com/at Queen of No Pants. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can join us for the live shows every other Wednesday on twitch.tv/Queen of No Pants. Cheers, everyone, and take care of yourselves. Just take care of yourselves. Cheers.